And LSU just didn't really pop off the screen to me. You know, I feel like they have a lot of holes in their roster, and UCLA has had the opportunity to play against Juju multiple times this year. So they've dealt with the best of the best in college basketball. So, you know, a Flage and some of the other ladies at LSU, I just don't think pose a real threat to what UCLA does. They have a really, really good inside presence. They score easy buckets. They defend really well. And they got a gang of ladies that throw at you that play really well and shoot it really well. I just don't see them losing.
All right, the NCAA tournament is in full swing. In the men's tournament, the 1 seeds are Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida, while South Carolina, USC, UCLA, and Texas have the 1 seeds. In the women's tournament, Rodney, I know that it is so early, but who do you have winning in each of these tournaments?
All right, let's start with the men's tournament, okay? First and foremost, let me just acknowledge I'm very disappointed that my Rutgers Scarlet Knights are not in the tournament. Just a very disappointing year for us in New Jersey, but it is what it is. All right, so my Final Four, let's just start there. My Final Four, I got Texas A&M. I got Texas A&M, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee. Yeah, that is my Final Four. I know that you are obviously an Auburn Tiger. I got y'all getting up out of there. You feel me? I just think y'all go these you go these droughts where you don't score very well. And for whatever reason, usually what happens in the tournament is conferences that have had a phenomenal regular season don't necessarily perform that well in the postseason tournament. I've observed the last few years. So you got to make you got to make your bracket kind of wonky. You got to just choose some things just out of sheer insanity. And that's what I did. So those are my Final Four. And I actually had Florida winning it all only because I just couldn't have Duke win the championship on my bracket. That's just not allowed. That's just not allowed. And I was like, and I was like, nah.
Okay, well, while we're on the men, I'll kind of tell you some teams that really stand out to me. So obviously in the South, of course, I'm going to go Auburn, but Michigan State is a team to watch too. Like they've been performing they've been kind of one of those like little sneaky teams a little bit. In the West, Florida is like the most complete team. And I hate that they're in the same conference as Auburn because we had to play them twice. But I don't know it's so crazy because remember, I don't think we ended up talking about the issue with the coach on our platform, but he had all that stuff going on and it didn't matter. Okay.
Well, what stuff? Fill me in. What stuff? Just so we're clear here.
Oh, well, he was accused of harassing students in their DMs and sending them nude photos and things.
Ooh, unsolicited pics? That's crazy. So
I thought it was a wrap. So out of the West, St. John's in Florida, like that's gonna be tough. That's going to be tough. I don't know why I'm rooting for St. John's. I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Okay,
can we talk about this?
Midwest,
can we unpack that? Yeah, all right. So St. John's was the team that I went back and forth with. Rick Pitino is obviously a great coach. He has done a phenomenal job in just bringing St. John's back to life. This was a very prominent university in the 90s. A lot of great players in the New York City area and beyond. The thing with St. John's, though, is they go these long spurts where they also do not score the ball well. And they play phenomenal defense. And they're all very, very old. But something about that team, I'm just saying, something about that team feels like they're not going to perform that well. I watched them in the Big East tournament. Their best player who won Big East Player of the Year, something about his game just feels like it's very easy to subdue. I watched teams do a good job on him. Kaderi Richmond, who was at Seton Hall last year, is phenomenal. But I think St. John's has limitations that don't bode well in tournament style format.
Okay. All right. So
you got to have a get hot guy. You got to have a guy that can get hot, and I just don't see that with St. John's. Okay.
All right. So in the Midwest, you have Houston, you got Tennessee and Kentucky. That's really tough. Okay. Let's go up to the East. Duke, Alabama. I mean, it's not bad. I'm not really checking for Wisconsin, but Duke and Alabama, I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup if they both win out.
I don't think Duke would
I
have
don't
a
know.
problem with Alabama just because they're so much better in the front court. Mark Sears, Alabama's guard, has been in college basketball for like 7 years. It feels like,
Don't say
for real. Between him and R.J. Davis from Carolina, these are two guys who I feel like have been in college basketball since the golden era of basketball. But their front court, right? They got Cliff Omenyuri, who was at Rutgers University last year, transferred over to Alabama. And with Cliff, he's not a very disciplined defensive player. And I just feel like the depth, the athleticism, and the intellect of Duke would really overwhelm him. And they need Cliff in order to have success in this tournament. And I could just see a situation, a scenario where he just doesn't rise to the occasion.
Okay. I don't want to say Florida, but I really could see Florida winning it all because this is, like I said earlier, this is a balanced team. This is a team that has played together. They also have Elijah Martin, who they brought on, who was at FAU when they made their run last year. So it just seems like the most complete team. And I hate that, but you already know who I really want. We got to win. It's time for us to win. It's time for us to win something.
Why?
Because it's just time. It's been a while.
Yeah. Okay, I hear you. That's just desperation talking. So, on your actual bracket, did you fill out a bracket? Yeah, right?
You know what? I didn't. I didn't.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I'm literally doing it as we're talking. I did not fill out an actual bracket.
Well, I got Florida winning all of mine. A part of me doesn't feel like it's actually realistic. I don't think they actually will win. Again, this was just me picking against Duke, who I feel like does have the most complete team in college basketball. But it all hinges on Cooper Flagg. If that ankle is okay and he's scheduled to play today, we record this on Thursday, so we slated to play tonight. So if that ankle holds up and Cooper Flagg can be Cooper Flagg, I think Duke probably will win the championship. But, it's so many different factors. There's so many different variables. My also another reason why I picked certain teams, because I picked some crazy, like 14s over 3. I did some crazy stuff in my bracket because okay. I was going, you know what helped me out?
Who did you do?
Whose team is old?
What's your crazy?
Whose team is oldest? Because Auburn's team is very old, but they lack offensive tenacity defensive tenacity at times. I feel like if your team was old, right? If you're Drake and you have an older, skilled, cohesive team as opposed to a team that maybe is a little bit younger, a lot of high ranked recruits, I'm gonna go with the old guys who've been playing together, gelling together for 5 and 6 years sometimes in some instances over some of these younger these younger teams. So that was my formula. That was my philosophy.
And I feel like that tends to bode well for teams in the tournament.
It does, man. And next year when the JUCO players get to have their free 2 years of JUCO and then get to college basketball, on a D1 level, it's different now. Now you got 24, 25-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds in some instances. It's going to be easier. It's going to be easier to pick the tournament.
I know we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you, though, I wanted to ask you before we go to the women. I wanted to ask you about UNC's win.
So
because I know you love them.
I'm a Carolina fan, which is like why I'm living in a state of agony, because I just do not like Hubert Davis. I think he's just the worst possible coach for our program. He's just a cornball. But I'll say this. So this past week, I went to a prison out here in California with Danny Green, UNC alum, a multi-time NBA champion, right? That's my guy. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the team. And Danny was very adamant that this team had a legitimate chance of hitting the Sweet 16. The way their bracket lines up, they do have a chance to advance a little bit further than you might expect. And they have at least 2 or 3 guys who have that get hot capability in RJ Davis, Ian Jackson, and Elliot Cadeau, and even Drake Powell on any given night. So, Carolina, I felt like they should have beat Duke in the ACC tournament. Obviously, old boy stepped in the lane and violated on the free throw, which was crazy. But Carolina, I got them going to the Sweet 16, but no further.
All right, let's go to the women.
Now let's talk about let's talk about the ladies.
Yeah. Okay, it's going to be some really good basketball. Man, there are so many good teams, and it's crazy because I feel like when you think about the women's bracket, you always just assume that the top seeds are always like, there's never going to be any upsets, but I feel like we could see some upsets this year. Like there's some really, really good teams that are playing. Okay. So who you got? Who's your top 4?
I got all 1 seeds advancing all the way through.
Really?
I do have every 1 seed on the women's side of the bracket advance. I do. Who do you have?
So you're trying to tell me? Okay, let's just break it down. Okay, so in Regional 1, right? This is the UCLA bracket, but you got LSU in here, and you got NC State.
I'm not concerned with either of those.
Really?
I'm not. If I'm
those
UCLA,
are two quality programs. Okay.
I think UCLA showed. Yeah, you could be a good game all you want to. I don't think that LSU has. To me, when I've watched, and I haven't watched a ton of women's basketball. Let me be completely transparent. But the few, of course, I watched the big matchups, and LSU just didn't really pop off the screen to me. You know, I feel like they have a lot of holes in their roster, and UCLA has had the opportunity to play against Juju multiple times this year. So they've dealt with the best of the best in college basketball. So, you know, a Flage and some of the other ladies at LSU, I just don't think pose a real threat to what UCLA does. They have a really, really good inside presence. They score easy buckets. They defend really well. And they got a gang of ladies that throw at you that play really well and shoot it really well. I just don't see them losing.
Okay, so let's go over to Regional 2. This is South Carolina's bracket. They got Duke, and Duke looks good. That's the only team, though, that I feel like could do anything. UNC also is in that bracket. I think that they're both. I mean, I think the ACC performed really well this season as far as women's basketball. So
that's all good until you go up against Dawn Staley. And I just think that Dawn prepares her team in a different way than every other coach in women's college basketball. She's different. She inspires. She gives you a different level of tenacity and fearlessness. And I'm taking that to the bank.
All right, Regional 3. This is the Texas bracket. You got Tennessee in here. I don't really know where TCU came from. They were a 2 seed. And you also have Notre Dame. They've had some really tough losses at the end of the season, but I still think that Notre Dame is a pretty solid team.
Wait, TCU has been balling. And you know why they've been balling?
Why?
Haley Van Lith. former Louisville Cardinal, former LSU Tiger. Yeah, she was the conference player of the year. And she caught a lot of flack last year. A lot of people blame LSU's inability to win a championship on her. And this year, she has carried TCU. She has been absolutely cooking and proven all of her doubters absolutely wrong. And I'm going to be honest, she's looked great while doing it. So Haley is that's good milk right there. However you want to slice it, that's good milk. Elite milk.
All right, please. Let's go Regional 4. This is USC's bracket, right? Yeah. They got UConn in that bracket. That's going to be I watched that game when they played in the regular season. It came down to the wire. I'm like, it's just going to be some really great basketball, but I do feel like USC could get the nod.
You taking Paige over Juju? You think Juju is going to let Paige beat her in the NCAA tournament?
I said USC gets the nod.
Okay, so overall, who you got winning the entire women's side of the tournament?
You know what? Okay, I have who I think could win and who I want to win. I want to see Juju win. I want to see Juju win. I really do. It's just something about this USC team that has just inspired me. And I want to see South Carolina win another one too. That's what I think. South Carolina could win it all, but I want to see USC win it. That's right.
Okay, I got UCLA winning it all. Same with you. I want to see Juju win. I would love to see Juju win a championship. I think it would bode incredibly well for women's basketball, both on the collegiate and professional level. Her being able to do the one thing that Caitlin Clark wasn't able to do during her tenure at Iowa, it would just do really great things for women's basketball. But I think UCLA has a really, really strong roster, top to bottom. They do so many different things well, have so much versatility that I got UCLA winning it all. Shout out to the Bruins.
All right, well, we just broke down our bracket. We want to hear from you, though. Who do you have winning it all in both the men and the women's basketball tournaments? Let us know.
Anybody but Duke. Anybody but Duke.